Hey there, creepy peeps. My name is Nightmare Maven and I love talking about horror. I also really love fall and winter seasons, even though I have to live vicariously through you guys for that because I live in Florida. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. I'm so happy you found my channel. Hopefully you stick around for a little while. If you're somebody who's returning, welcome back. It is the last month of the year and I feel like I haven't done a recommendations video in so long, so way to procrastinate, Vicky. Let's go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to share some horror books and movies that I feel like are perfect for this time of year, whether they actually take place during the winter time or during the holiday season, or they just kind of give me those vibes, which I'll explain in a second. So let's start with the books. The first one I want to talk about is Ghost Story by Peter Straub. Ghost stories and haunted house stories just scream wintertime to me. I'm not sure what it is about them, but it's just, there's just something, something about ghost stories that give me like cuddled up in a warm blanket by a fire with some hot cocoa vibes. Do you know what I mean? So Ghost Story specifically follows a group of men who get together every once in a while and try and scare the pants off of each other by telling each other ghost stories. Like, I know, where can I sign up for this club? The men are also haunted by something IRL, something very tragic that happened in their collective past, and it comes back to haunt them. The book largely does take place during the winter time, so it's appropriate for the season, but also it's like a ghost story, so it's just, it works for wintertime. It does have a movie adaptation, which I've seen once. I feel like the book was way better, so it's always better though, so you know. Speaking of hauntings, I also feel like I have to mention The Invited by Jennifer McMahon. The story follows a couple who move out of the city and into like a rural mountain town where they're gonna legit like build their own house from scratch. Like they buy a piece of property and they're gonna build their house. One half of the couple, Helen, is a historian and she, you know, loves history, loves learning about the past. So she takes it upon herself to learn the history of the property they bought, which of course has a dark history, as you would imagine, involving a witch who was murdered. And Helen starts coming across like pieces of furniture or pieces of the original house that was there. So being the historian she is, she wants to incorporate that into the house that they're building to kind of honor the history of the land that they've purchased. But as she starts adding more pieces, the haunting starts to get more and more frequent and more terrifying. So I feel like it's a really unique take on a haunted house tale, because like in your typical run-of-the-mill haunted house story, you have like this old house that's been, you know, standing for a long time that has a dark past. But in this case, they're building the house. Like it's about honoring history, but the correct history, not like the rumors and superstitions and stereotypes that usually come from, you know, word of mouth gossip bullshit. So another haunting story, are you seeing a pattern here, that I need to recommend for this time of year is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This one is quite similar to Ghost Story in that we have a group of friends who in their past did something terrible that is coming back to haunt them. So it's like a part ghost story, part creature feature, kind of. It's not like a fictitious creature, it's a very real animal, but it's got like creature feature vibes. So the book deals with, you know, following tradition, the price of breaking away from tradition. It's very gory. I will say that the gore in this stood out to me. It's not typical of like your average ghost story or average haunting type story, I feel like. So if you like gore, this is the book for you. Highly recommend. The Lost Village by Camilla Sten also gives me wintry vibes, although if I remember correctly, this does not take place in the winter at all. But like look at the cover. Does that not like scream like wintertime, you know? The book is a play on like Blair Witch Project sort of story. We have a film crew who are camped out at this infamously abandoned town a la Roanoke. Like no one knows what happened to them. Just one day they up and disappeared without a trace. There's no bodies, no evidence of anything happening. It's like they just vanished into thin air. So of course, the longer the group stays getting their footage, the weirder things get. It also bounces back and forth between like the present day and the past during the last days of this town, like leading up to what eventually happened to them. So we do get an answer for that. And the flashback scenes give me huge cult vibes, like religious cult vibes. So if you love that sort of thing, definitely recommend this one. It's also just very creepy. There's something about abandoned spaces that freak me out. They're like staying out in the town square. So they're surrounded by all these abandoned buildings. And it's just something about that that's freaky to me because there's so many places somebody could hide. So it's like, is it really abandoned? Is there something here? So it really plays up those vibes. I think it's very effective. And finally, this isn't really a horror book, more of a dark academia, like mystery, but it gives me huge winter vibes, and that is If We Were Villains by ML Rio. So like dark academia, like ghost stories, just kind of scream like late fall, winter vibes for me. The book follows a group of thespians who go to university at this very like elite exclusive school, and in their senior year one of their classmates is killed, and it's like, did one of them do it? What happened? Dealing with the aftermath of this. I'm not gonna say anything, you should just read it, but couldn't put it down. I loved like the kind of like boarding school, you know, university dark academia vibes. It's just very much a Shakespearean tragedy, but modernized. And one of my coworkers recommended this to me. So shout out to Nylea for telling me to read this book because it was fantastic. All right, movie time. So I would be remiss if I didn't at least quickly mention Krampus and Rare Exports. I always recommend those two for holiday horror recommendations, winter horror recommendations. They're just so good. So if anybody out there has yet to see either of those, do not let 2021 end without seeing those. Okay, that aside, I apparently have a reputation now, especially at work, for liking emotionally scarring movies. So I'm gonna recommend The Black Coat's Daughter because it's like a perfect winter scary movie. So this movie bounces back and forth between a couple of young women. One is getting a ride with a nice family, and then the other story we're bouncing between is two girls who get stranded at their boarding school over the winter holiday. Don't really want to say any more than that because this is a movie that you just have to experience, and I feel like I can't really get into any other details without giving away what the fuck is happening in the movie. So you just kind of have to experience it for yourself. It's got themes of religious trauma and isolation, so if that's of any interest to y'all, you should definitely watch this. Also directed by Oz Perkins, so if you liked Gretel and Hansel, which I know a lot of people have seen, you'll definitely like The Black Coat's Daughter. I also have to throw an anthology in there because I love a good anthology, and my go-to kind of holiday horror anthology recommendation is A Christmas Horror Story. It's like Tales of Halloween, but for Christmas instead. The tales aren't exactly intertwined, but they take place in the same town, and the bookend story has a sickening twist, which I love. It has a great variety of stories, so you have your typical kind of like commercialized Christmas stories. There's stories that have like religious connotations, there's pagan and kind of like folklore inspired stories, and then of course we have a good like Krampus Santa story. Just like the cover of the movie suggests, it's Krampus versus Santa, and it's awesome. Dead End is another great winter horror watch that I love. It's one of those like time loop movies following a family that are taking a shortcut via a wooded back road on their way to a Christmas party. There's something naturally unsettling about driving in like a rural foresty area at night that it just feels like you'll never reach civilization again. Do you know what I mean? Like it just kind of gives you that feeling. And then in this movie's case, it doesn't, and that's the horror of it. Plus it has Lin Shaye and Ray Wise, so if for no other reason, you should watch it for their performances alone. And finally, with possibly the most unique premise for a movie I've ever seen, is Pontypool. The film follows a DJ who becomes barricaded in his studio as a virus breaks out while he's on the air. But it's not just any virus. The transmission for the infection is the English language. I know, right? It's kind of hard to describe like how the virus works within the movie. You kind of just have to see it. Like just watch it, just let it play out and it'll make sense more or less. But it's a really unique take on the virus outbreak movie. It's very disorienting. Like my first watch, I like didn't even fully understand what I had just seen. But I've found like different meanings and different things like every time I've rewatched this. So there you have it. Those are some winter horror movie and book recommendations. Please share your own recommendations in the comments as well, because I'm sure there's a few of you that are watching this and have probably watched and read everything I just talked about. So help out your fellow horror fans in the comments with some more suggestions. There is also a link at the top of the description for a Google form so you can share some suggestions for our creepy book club reading list for 2022. So I've put some prompts in there if you want to give me like 1 or 2 book recommendations, and we'll decide what we're gonna read from those suggestions. Like I said, that's right at the top of the description box. If you are interested and want to fill that out, you should definitely join the creepy book club if you like reading, because we have so much fun. We read 1 horror / scary centric book a month, and then I have a live stream every month where we talk about that book for the month. All right, that's it. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out. Subscribe if you're new here. Become a creepy peep today. I will see you very soon with a new video or something. Until then, stay strange. Bye.